In this example, I'm going to show you how we can use inductive reasoning and grounded theory to answer one of our research questions. As I mentioned in another lecture, research is essentially detective work. Like detectives, like private investigators, we researchers proceed in a very systematic and orderly manner to find answers pertaining to our daily life, or to find solutions to certain social issues, certain social problems. When we use an orderly, systematic way to find answers pertaining to society, to our social work, social problems, some kind of reasoning is always involved. And there are two main types of reasoning in research or in social science research. The first type is deductive reasoning. You've seen that in another video. And the second type is inductive reasoning. In inductive reasoning, we are very similar to police officers or detectives. Police officers, think about this, or detectives, they are essentially like researchers. They go to the crime scene first. They don't formulate a theory first. They may or may not realize when they try to investigate a crime, to find solutions, to resolve a crime, they oftentimes don't start with a theory. Academics, we start with a theory when we do research sometimes. But sometimes we are like police officers or detectives. Sometimes we start with the data, the evidence. Then we see if there's any existing theory that can be used to tell a story pertaining to the data we gather or the evidence we found. When we do this, we are essentially engaging in inductive reasoning approach in doing research. And sometimes, if this is already a well-researched topic, it's easier to start with a theory than to see if the evidence or the data confirms our theory. In some rare instances, like this example, I think this issue has rarely or even has not been studied in Nebraska. How minority groups in Nebraska, how much do they know about Alzheimer's medication or dementia medication? And do they have access to these medications? I think this is still an understudied but important topic. And because of that, there may or may not be any existing theory to explain the phenomena we are going to find out. Because of that, sometimes researchers may prefer to use inductive reasoning. They start with a data and they see if there's any existing theory on race, ethnicity, on inequalities, on health that can be used to confirm the phenomena or the evidence they found. So, this is how we go about doing things. We first conduct interviews from minority groups, from blacks, from Hispanics, from Asians, to find out how much they know about these medications, ACHEIS, or to find out whether they have access to Alzheimer's and dementia medication. Based on the narratives from all these interviews, or sometimes we can write close-ended survey questions when we go interview all these minority groups in Nebraska. So Based on all these open-ended and closed-ended interview questions, based on the answers we gather, we proceed to do data analysis to see whether knowledge about or access to Alzheimer's and dementia medication differs across different racial ethnic groups. We can also analyze the interview data to see whether knowledge about and access to medications differ by people's income level, people's education level, people's insurance status, and other characteristics. And after we analyze our data, sometimes we may see, are there still any gaps, any knowledge gaps we need to find out? Are there still anything we don't understand? Oftentimes there is, and because of that, we revise our interview questions. See the arrow here. This is where grounded theory comes in. We revise our survey questions. We revise all our open-ended and closed-ended survey questions. And maybe we go back to interview the same groups of people if they are willing to be interviewed. Or if we want more answers to better understand the phenomena, if our previous respondents were too busy or they declined to answer for whatever reason, we may need to recruit new participants with our revised interview questions to better understand the problem at hand or the social phenomena. And after we conduct in-depth interview with revised interview questions, we analyze the data again. And then we see, have we find out everything about knowledge pertaining to all these drugs and access to all these medications? If no, we revise our interview questions again and we conduct interviews on the same groups of people or different groups of minority. Then we analyze data again. As you can see, we repeat the circle. Then after we analyze the data, we see, have we answered all the questions? Did they provided all the relevant answers? If not, we revise the interview questions again. We interview the same or different groups of minorities in Nebraska to find out more about knowledge pertaining to drugs or access to all these drugs to improve their Alzheimer's or dementia conditions. Then we go back to analyzing the data again. And then we see whether we have a better knowledge or we have enough knowledge pertaining to this problem or this phenomena. If yes, then we proceed to theory formulation stage. We try to find a few tentative theories or a few appropriate suitable theories about this problem. We try to find out whether existing theory on ethnic racial inequalities or ethnic racial inequalities in health that can be used to explain racial differences in knowledge about and access to Alzheimer's and dementia drugs. And given the results we obtain from our interviews, based on all these narratives we obtain from our interviews, we try to see whether the existing theories needs to be revised to better explain the evidence we gather. Or sometimes our interview results may be so unique, may be so different from previous studies that we may need to create new theories to explain what we found from our interviews. from our open-ended and closed-ended surveys. Are we clear?